What is up, weather enthusiasts? I'm your host, Pat's Path Predictor. Let's get right into the weather. Alright, so here's the situation we have for you, ladies and gentlemen. Last night, as we ended the stream, we had Invest 98L. Now, according to the National Hurricane Center, we have Tropical Storm Melissa, which already is a decent strength system right now, and we have a lot to talk about as there are now hurricane watches and tropical storm watches in effect for Haiti and Jamaica. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and dive right into all of it right here because we have a lot to talk about. Starting off right here, we have Tropical Storm Melissa. As we see right here, it's currently moving west at 14 miles per hour. As of the latest public advisory, the 13th tropical storm of the season forms over the central Caribbean Sea. Hurricane watch issued for portions of Haiti. Its maximum sustained winds are currently 50 miles per hour. It's located about 300 miles south of the Port-au-Prince, Haiti. It's currently moving west at 14 miles per hour, and its minimum central pressure is 1,003 millibars. So already a pretty decent, strong system at this current point. It has a lot of organizational issues still. From what I'm seeing, it still needs to kind of close itself off some more, and it still needs to get more convection towards the center of the LLC. But other than that, it's already off to a pretty decent starter package at this current point in time. But there are some other things we're going to show you just to kind of give you an idea of what may be happening. But tropical storm force winds already extend outward 115 miles from the center, so that'll be something you're going to want to watch as well. And these 50-mile-per-hour winds are based on a combination of surface obs and satellite imagery and satellite data from that. So that's what we have for you right here. Hurricane watch is in effect from the border of the Dominican Republic to Port-au-Prince in Haiti, and a tropical storm watch is in effect for all of Jamaica. So that's something you're going to want to pay attention. If you are tuning in from either of those countries, you're going to want to take this very, very seriously. And here is what we have for our discussion for you guys right here. Our first discussion from for Melissa right here. Satellite images, regional Caribbean radar data, and surface observations indicate that Invest 98L has developed a well-defined center and organized deep convection to be designated a tropical cyclone. A ship port that recently passed near the center of the storm reported a minimum central pressure of around 1,003 millibars. Satellite imagery shows the system is asymmetric, with the low-level center near the western edge of the central dense overcast. The initial intensity is set to 45 knots based on a blend of the latest satellite intensity image estimates, making the formation of Tropical Storm Melissa. An Air Force Hurricane Hunter aircraft is scheduled to investigate the system this afternoon, and their data should provide a better assessment of Melissa's strength and structure. So we have a recon that's going to be going out a little bit later. I'll be excited to see when that happens. So that's what we have just to kind of give you a good start for right now. The system was moving very quickly westward over the past several days, but slowed down significantly this morning, which likely helped Melissa form. It's currently moving at 14 miles per hour, expected to slow down and gradually turn northwest and then north during the next couple of days due to a weakness in the subtropical ridge. This motion will likely take the storm very near the southwestern tip of Haiti and Jamaica by Thursday. After that time, the guidance diverges significantly, with models like the GFS and HWRF showing a motion to the northeast into the weakness, while the other solutions show a stall or a westward drift on the south side of a building ridge. An examination of the GFS European and Google DeepMind ensembles. Interesting, the NHC is referencing the Google DeepMind, I find. Suite suggests the majority of the members show Melissa not moving into the weakness and remaining in the Caribbean Sea throughout the week and into the weekend. NHC official track forecast lies between the Google DeepMind ensemble mean track and the correct consensus aid HCCA. So that's pretty interesting how they've kind of laid down the track as well. So that's kind of their explanation as to why their track is, and we'll show you the cone in just a second. But here's the kicker. Melissa is expected to be over very warm waters in the Caribbean, but models suggest that vertical wind shear will be moderate with some dry air in the vicinity during the next few days. Based on these mixed signals, the strengthening trend is expected to be slow and steady, not rapid. However, the future intensity of Melissa is linked to the track, and since that is quite uncertain beyond the next couple of days, the strength is also quite uncertain. So basically what we have is just a bunch of uncertainty right here from the National Hurricane Center. And taking a quick look at this, they're having at 50, then 60, then 65, then 70, then 75, then an 80-mile-per-hour category hurricane by 5 days out. We have a lot of uncertainty to unpack with you right here, but we can go ahead and show you the first cone the National Hurricane Center put out, and this is what we got for you guys right here. A very slow moving system throughout its entire time as it's in the Caribbean. It's still going to be over extremely warm waters as it starts to get its act together and starts to consolidate a bit more. You still have some shear that it's going to be battling. There is a little bit of dry air to the west, but we're going to want to pay attention to those two factors going forward. But if you're in Haiti and if you're in Jamaica, you're going to want to take this very seriously. If you're in Cuba, you're absolutely also going to want to watch this as well. And we'll continue to pay attention to all these factors here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel for you guys. But here is your satellite imagery as of right now. The satellite imagery is quite interesting, as a matter of fact. I'll show you the tropical tidbits, and then I'll go ahead and show you Dapia. Tropical tidbits has seen consistent convection over here with Melissa right at this current point. It's remaining quite consistent. The main question I was having was, would it hold throughout the evening and continue to blossom in the day? And it turns out it looks like it has. It started blowing up last night. It continued to really produce more and more of this convection right here, and now even in the morning it's still producing and still quite consistent, which has been quite surprising to me, to be honest. This system really fought out, really built itself up last night, and now it's continuing to organize, it's continuing to consolidate. It is battling shear at this current point, but it's doing a decent job with the track that it has so far. However, the one thing I am interested in, and I do find this kind of interesting, I'm taking a quick look at this. This is the latest ASCAT data as of around earlier this morning, a few hours ago, as a matter of fact, when they designated this a tropical storm. This is the ASCAT data that we have for you right here. I guess surface obs kind of contradict this, but this is not a closed low right here, which I do find pretty interesting. This is not exactly the closed low type of system you would see with tropical cyclones. So I'm curious as to why the NHC designated this a tropical storm, but I do think it's mainly a blend of mainly the surface observations that finally got it across the finish line. But by and large, the fact that we're seeing a 50-mile-per-hour tropical storm already when this system just, was just designated tells me a lot about what this system could be doing. I think that this is going to be a very powerful system regardless of where this goes, because once the shear starts to weaken in the next, I'd say, 72-ish hours, you're going to see the system potentially rapidly intensify as the ridge starts to build in and really keep it in the Caribbean, as most model guidance is now suggesting. A lot of the models from last night have started to cave towards a more westward scenario, so that is some good news as of right now. But we can go ahead, and before we show you that, I do want to go ahead and show you Dapia as well. I want to go ahead and show you the Dapia, and I want to show you the latest guidance, the latest satellite imagery, minute to minute, because I always think this is kind of cool. But take a look at this. By the way, seizure warning to those prone to flashing lights. I do apologize for that, but here's what we have for you right here. Taking a quick gander at this. Still very consistent convection. Still very top-heavy to the east, and still, you can see how evidently sheared it is, but it's fighting like hell to keep going, and it's doing a fantastic job so far, mainly tapping into those warm waters to keep it going and keep the system blowing up at this current rate. So that's what we have for you right here based on the satellite imagery. The reason we're seeing all of this convection is mainly because it's tapping into that very warm water and tapping into that ocean heat content. And my concern is once the shear drops and once the dry air starts to falter as well, then you're going to have a scenario in which this system could really escalate really fast. 50 miles per hour may not seem like much, but this is a scary 50 miles per hour if you ask me, because of the conditions that this has ahead of it. Because we're going to see that decrease in shear and increase in moisture as more convection starts to fire off. So that's something that you're going to want to keep in mind and something you're going to want to pay attention to. But now let's go ahead and go to the current storms page right here. This is Tropical Storm Melissa. What I want to look at is hopefully the track guidance and the intensity guidance. I don't think we have that right now. We can kind of give you a general idea of what may be happening. Okay, never mind, we can't. We're going to need to wait and see how this will ultimately pan out. Okay, this is not great at all. So yeah, I think it's because it went from an invest to Tropical Storm Melissa, we don't have those hurricane ensembles and hurricane models just yet, but we can show you the operational forecast and at least what the hurricane runs. Actually, do we have those right here? Here's what we have with Melissa. Okay, the H-Wharf is starting to trickle in at this current point, and we do have some hurricane models right here. They don't go all the way out, so I'm going to wait a few minutes and show the operational system models before I show some hurricane models, just to give it a little bit more time for more of that to come out, to kind of get a general idea of what may be happening. But let's go ahead and zoom into the Western Atlantic. Here's what we have with the European as of the 0Z run. For you right here, system continues to organize and consolidate and start to get its act together as it moves towards Jamaica. Is expected to stall out right here as the ridge starts to build in and then starts to move a little bit further to the west as time continues to go on. By around October 25th is when we'll start seeing that motion start to resume south of Jamaica. And then from the 0Z European, the system really starts to organize, really starts to intensify and turn up in the intensity. Category 3 to Category 4 hurricane making landfall in central Cuba right here. And even still, you're looking at this, you could see some outer bands impacting Florida right here from this system because of how large this could ultimately become. And then this system makes landfall in Cuba and then makes landfall in the Bahamas as either a Category 3 or Category 4 hurricane. So we're definitely going to want to watch out for that. The European has been by far the most consistent model out of the bunch, and that's the model I am still riding with, mainly because of its consistency and the fact that it's been off to a great start in terms of the initialization and kind of its forecasted intensity at this current point. So that's what we have with the European run right here, mainly keeping it in the Caribbean and then starting to make landfall potentially in Cuba and then heading towards the Bahamas and then heading towards Bermuda. For me, a worst case scenario would actually not be a very strong system making landfall in Cuba. It would actually be a weaker system hitting Haiti because of the anarchy and because of the political situation that they're dealing with over there. Also, you have to mention Haiti is one of the poorest countries in the Western Hemisphere. I believe it's either Haiti or Venezuela. It alternates between the two. Let me know in the comments down below. But a worst case scenario would not be a Cuba landfall as a major hurricane, but probably maybe just a strong tropical storm to weak hurricane landfall in Haiti if those models continue to hold, which based on the recent data, they have not, and they've started to shift further and further and further to the west. So that's what we have with the European. Here's the GFS. 12Z is fully out, but I'll show the 0Z just for context. 0Z GFS had the system making landfall in Haiti as a Category 2 hurricane near the Dominican Republic border, and then moving out to sea after that. Based on what we've seen with the NHC track, this is very unlikely to happen at this current point. So that's something that you're going to want to keep in mind. Also, the system still needs to properly organize and properly stack itself before it starts to intensify and kind of take advantage of that weakness if it does, which based on the recent guidance, I don't think it will. It's becoming more and more likely to me that it will stay in the Caribbean for the next few days and then blow up in the Western Caribbean as it taps into that OHC over there. But that's what we have with the 0Z GFS. Here's the 12Z GFS. System starts to organize a bit more. Okay, the 12Z GFS still has the system entering the Dominican Republic right here. To be honest, I don't like this scenario right here because what this is advocating for is for the system to strengthen right away and for it to ultimately move to the north right away and take advantage of the weakness. That's unlikely to happen at this current point because number one, where it's currently at, its longitude is in line with the Dominican Republic. It would have to make that turn right now, and that's not happening. And number two, we don't even technically have a closed low based on ASCAT. So once that consolidates, which will probably take at least 24 to 36 hours based on what I'm seeing with the shear data, in the potential dry air the system could be running into, by that time, it'll pretty much be, at least in terms of longitudinally, aligned with Western Haiti. So that's something that you're going to want to keep in mind and something you're going to want to pay attention to. Here is your Canadian run. Canadian run has also been somewhat consistent, actually, having the system move by the time we get to October 24th south of Jamaica and then over the Western Caribbean and then really start to intensify. The Canadian is caved in fully to the European scenario at this current point in time. So you have this, and then you have this system making landfall in central Cuba, potentially bringing some outer bands to southern Florida as well, and then crashing into the Bahamas, and then making landfall potentially in Bermuda as a strong hurricane right here. We'll have to see how that evolves, but the Canadian, at least in terms of track, is caving into what the European has been suggesting right here. That's your Canadian run. Here is your Icon run as well. Icon has been pretty interesting as well, mainly stalling just off of Haiti, and then starting to move towards the west and kind of really not having that much of a system at all by this point, mainly keeping it in between Cuba, Haiti, and Jamaica right there as a weaker system. But it seems that based on the current guidance, it looks like it's going to be moving into the Western Caribbean based on the European, Canadian, and a few other areas as well. So we're going to want to pay attention to those going forward. That's what you have with the operational runs. Here is your hurricane models. We have a little bit more data we can go ahead and use at this current point. By the time we get to tomorrow on the H-Wharf run, the system is forecasted to become a hurricane, which I'm going to be brutally honest right now. I do not see this being a hurricane by tomorrow or tomorrow morning. The main reason I don't is because number one, it's too sheared. Number two, there's some dry air surrounding it. And number three, it needs to get those issues taken care of. And the convection is just too lopsided to the east right now for it to strengthen much more. Could I see 60 miles per hour with Melissa at that rate? Maybe. Yeah, we saw that with Fiona in 2022. But am I seeing anything stronger? No. That's where I'm at right now, and that's where I'm going to hold at this current point until we see more data and information. But that's what we have with the H-Wharf. Yeah, like I said, getting close to hurricane strength right here, and then moving to the west, and then just moving to the north and heading towards Haiti and the Dominican Republic, similar to what the GFS is advocating for. I'm going to be brutally... I can understand why the H-Wharf is advocating for this, mainly because it's kind of going for it's going to strengthen right now type of scenario instead of it needs to organize first and then strengthen type of scenario like some of the other models are advocating for. So that's why we're seeing these kinds of scenarios. Ultimately, the stronger the storm, the quicker it will turn to the north if it takes advantage of that. But as we're seeing right now, it still needs to organize a lot before it can even get to that strength and before even the trough starts to pull it. So that's what we're dealing with in terms of these hurricane models. A lot of uncertainties still that we need to untangle. Hmon has a lot more out. The Hmon is even advocating for this system to become a pretty strong low 990s right here. This is a strong tropical storm right here as it potentially heads towards Haiti and Jamaica right here, potentially making landfall or making a very close pass to the the southwestern area of Haiti right here, and then stalling out just right off the coast of Haiti, which I do think is kind of interesting. Is it a possibility? Maybe. At that intensity, probably not. But this is definitely starting to see the effects of that ridge that's starting to build in. And the next 72 hours in terms of the track are going to be very critical as to what happens, whether in terms of intensity, in terms of how this ridge builds in, and a few other aspects as well. So that's what we have with the Hmon. Definitely a more reasonable scenario in the short term, but I don't like the intensity early on. I think it's going a little bit too strong in my opinion, but that's just me. Here's the Havs A. Havs A has the system starting to organize a little bit more, 997 millibars. Similar, it's kind of leaning towards what the European is going for, mainly stalling out in this part of the Caribbean for a couple of days and then starting to move more so towards the west based on what I've been seeing. So that's your Havs A model that we have now. Let's go ahead and go to the Havs B as well, just to give you a better idea of what's going on. Okay, the Havs B, I don't like the Havs B right now. It needs to get its act together. It needs to clean itself up before I can really start to take that seriously. The initialization just, yeah, no, I don't really like that. But by and large, you have a situation where things are continuing to rapidly escalate. And this is a scenario that we're going to want to watch, and we'll continue to keep you updated here on the Pat's Path Predictor channel. In terms of what we may see in regards to streaming and all of that, we're not 100% sure just yet. I'm not planning to stream tonight. Tomorrow, if I do stream, it's going to be another one of those late night streams. So instead of Saturday Night Live, it's going to be Wednesday Night Live, Pat's Path Predictor Edition. So if you guys would like that, let me know in the comments down below. I'll be happy to take that into consideration. But with that being said, we're closing the video out right here. I really hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you are new. The goal, as always, is to get more people engaged with weather. If you'd like to help out, hang out, or ask us some questions, feel free to join the Storms United Discord server. The link to that will be in the end screen, as well as in the description down below. We'd really appreciate it if you join. And with that being said, have a wonderful day, guys. Stay safe.